welcome back. We're working on the last page of the Home for Thanksgiving album, and I've chosen to make this just a reasonably simple page because I love how beautiful this paper is, and I really hate to cover it up. So I'm going to try my best to do just a little bit here and there, and so we can admire the paper a little bit more. I've chosen this pattern from the companion set from the Homestead, and I also took two of these. These are what we basically removed when we did the storm door at the beginning, and these were the pieces that we cut out. I'm going to cover these with this paper. So I'm basically just going to glue them on. As we've done before. And I'm going to kind of even cheat a little bit and use the edges of the paper being already cut square for me. I'll leave a little room, and then I'll do this one, and then I'm going to just let it set for a couple of seconds here. Cut it out with my craft knife. I'll just do a rough cut first, and then I'll come back and cut it out real neat. Just around the edges. You can also use scissors for this. And then I'm going to ink up the sides so that they match everything else. So again, I'm going to use sorry, wrong ink. I'm going to use the Summer Starfruit again. Make sure that you have enough of a pattern on here, or a shadow I should say, on here. I'm going to ink it a little bit heavier as I want it to look like the panel that would be on a door to your home. Hopefully you can see there's a little bit of a shadow there. Alright, now I want to glue these onto the page, and what I did was I took a measurement from the storm door, and everything was a 1/2 inch from the bottom and over to the edges. So I've already done some marking with my pencil and my ruler again, and I basically just marked a 1/2 inch. Actually, I take that back. I think it was 3/4. Yes, 3/4 of an inch around. So 3/4 of an inch up. I made a couple of marks here, and then also 3/4 of an inch in from the sides on both. That way you're going to get it pretty even when you glue it on. You can use the liquid glue again, or you can use double stick tape, whatever you'd like to do. I use the liquid glue because I have that little time where I can move it. So I'm going to do it both of them at the same time. Line them up with my lines. At the same time, I'm going to get my Tim Holtz ruler here so that I can get things straight all the way around in case my lines are off a little bit. If you go from your 3/4 here and your 3/4 here, you'll have the right measurement on the inside that matches the storm door. And I'm making sure that they're down against the ruler and just press. And that's just a little dimensional accent, and it didn't take up too much of the paper by covering it. Now what I want to do is make 2 places here that I can have some photos and journaling spots in here. I'm trying to get this page to pretty much simulate what we do after our dinner. We usually sit around the dining room table and we play cards. So the first thing that I did was I took a piece of Cajun Craze cardstock from Stampin' Up! And I cut that at, I think it was 1 3/4 by 3. I'll remeasure just in case I'm wrong. Yes, 1 3/4 by 3. And the first thing that I want to do is ink around the edges. So I'm going to take the Cajun Craze ink, a little sponge dauber, and I'm going to ink both sides of this. Just enough to leave a little bit of a color. Now what I want to do is take some of my Perfect Pearls Sunflower Sparkle. We've used that earlier. And I'm going to get a piece of scrap paper. And I want to just spray this very lightly. You can roll it, just make sure that it's fully mixed, that there's nothing on the bottom, and just a very, very light mist from far away. I don't want it to be overly covered, and then I'm going to let that dry. Now that this paper is nice and dry from the spray, I'm going to corner round just this one top right edge. So I'm going to use the 1/4 inch corner chomper, and also touch up that little spot with the Cajun Craze ink. Now what I want to do is score this paper. So I'm going to take my scoreboard, and you're going to set it in so that the corner that you rounded is to the upper right hand side, and you're going to score a few lines here, and you're going to do it at the 1/2 inch. And if you're using Stampin' Up! Cardstock, it's very heavy. It's wonderful paper. It's 80-pound weight. So I'm going to run this through like 2 or 3 times just to get a good crease. So at a 1/2 inch, then at 5/8, and at 7/8. Just going over the same line 3 times so I can crease it better once I am folding it. And at 1 1/8, you just follow your guidelines at the top on the ruler up here. 1 1/8 and 1 1/4. Alright, now I'm going to apply some double-sided tape. I'm going to use the score tape. And I'm going to put it on all of the spots that are in between your score lines. So you've got a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch here, and you have a 1/4 and a 1/4 here, and then the real small ones are 1/8, and we're not going to put any score tape on that. So what I want to do for this front side is put it on, and if you hold it the same way, you're going to center your score tape or your double stick tape on the side with the 1/2 inch that has not been corner rounded. And then you're going to put it on the 1/4 inch spot and the next 1/4 inch space. You're going to avoid all of the actual score lines because then they won't fold as well. So I have it on, I centered it between the 1/2 inch, then I left the 1/8, and I went to the 1/4 inch area and I centered it there, and immediately went right over to the next 1/4 inch area and I centered it there. Then you're going to turn it over, and we're going to put it on all the spots except for the 1/8 inch. So the 1/2, the quarter, quarter, and the quarter. I'm sorry, the half, the quarter, quarter, and the half. Centering it again. Gotta get another roll of tape here. On the quarter inch, in the final half. Once you do a couple of these, it'll all make sense. It's not as difficult as it seems at this point. All right, now we're going to start folding. So what I do first is just manually fold with my hands on every one of the score lines. The 1/8 inch lines aren't that hard to find once you have your score tape on. If you were to put your score tape on at the end, they're a little bit harder to find because that's a very small area. You can fold them both ways just to make it so that your paper understands which way it's trying to go. And then if it still feels like it's a little tight, do take the bone folder and crease it. You want it to be very workable. Train those paper fibers to fold. Alright, now we've got it, and this is the way it's going to actually go on. And let me kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing visually so you can kind of follow me. We're going to adhere these papers onto this little hinge unit that I'm making. Alright, now I'm going to show you how we're going to stick two of the little 1/4 inch sections together. So you're going to take the side where you have the corner rounded and pull off the 2 pieces of tape backing that are on those 1/4 inch pieces. You can probably see the shine of the tape. And you're going to just fold them onto each other. Again, use your bone folder if you have one and burnish it down. That also helps adhere the score tape even tighter to itself. And you'll see that you have a little area like this, and this side will have 2 spots that are going to fold. And there's your little 1/8 inch spots that we had no score tape on, and that's kind of just going to give you a mini spine and room for your pages and your pictures to go. Alright, I've selected a few pieces of pattern paper from the Homestead Collection, and the first sheet I have cut at 6 1/4 by 4 inches, and then I have 2 more that I have cut at 3 inches by 4 inches. I'm only going to score the 6 1/4 piece, and you want to put it on the long side, 6 1/4 side here, and I'm going to score it at 3 and 6. And I just want to fold on the score lines. I use the bone folder to make sure that they're nice and creased. And I want to put some score tape on this 1/4 inch flap. What we're going to do is make a small little pocket. So remove the tape backing on this. Line up your edges. Crease it so it's nice and smooth all the way around. So basically I've made a pocket page, and then I have 2 separate photo mat pages. And obviously they can be used either way, but we're going to adhere those into the little binding unit that we made, the little hinge unit that we made. So I think what I would like to do for this, my first page will be the striped page, so I'm going to adhere that on. just remove your tape backing. And you want to avoid putting the page over the crease. So you want to basically line it up. Let me do it this way because I'm right-handed. Avoid the crease. So put it on the side away from the crease. Just butt it up to the edge. And I just touch it lightly with my fingers. And the best way that I have found is to use your grid and make sure everything's nice and square. Line it up on your craft mat, the grid on your craft mat if you have one, and then secure it down. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the last page, and the pocket page is going to go in the middle. So I'm going to take this and remove the tape backing. Make sure whatever side you want facing up. I'm going to go with the kind of the gold sides on this one. Now if I touch it a little bit, if I fold it this way, I can use my other paper that's already been squared up as a guideline, or you can again line it up on your mat and make sure that it's square. Press real firm. Now with this one, I'm going to take this and I'm going to tuck it in. So I'm going to open it up and it's going to get tucked in, but you can tell that it won't fit right now. So what I need to do is trim these corners at an angle. So take your scissors and just snip off at a 45-degree angle, avoiding the creases so you don't snip your unit apart. And then this will slip on very nicely. So what I'm going to do first, before I do that, and before I put it on, is I want to punch some finger holes here. And so I'm going to take my ruler, and it should be 1.5 inches because it's a 3-inch piece of paper. But I'm going to do the zero centering as I've shown you before, and just mark where the 0 is. And I'm going to take my 1/2 inch paper punch. This one happens to be from Stampin' Up! And I'm going to center it. I'm going to put the mark where it's halfway, the center mark here. And I'm also only going to put the paper in halfway. So I'm kind of centering it half both ways, if you know what I mean. The mark is on the center of the circle here. And I'm only going to punch half a circle. That will give you a small little hole for your thumb, because that's basically where you could put another journaling tag in here. You can put a photo, you can put some memorabilia in here, something that you want to just keep from falling out. You could tuck it down in. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to put in here yet. But basically, all I want to do is remove the tape backing now from each side. Kind of spread this open a little bit so it gets used to fitting over the top, because your double stick tape will start sticking right away. Place it on your little hinge area. Make sure it's down nice and tight. And then secure it down. And so now you have, this is the front. You have your little page where you could put a tag, like I said, and then you have your back page. So now what I want to do is mount this onto my page. This is going to be my first unit that I'm making, and so I'm just going to secure it here. And what I think would be the best is to probably do the same measurement as was on the storm door. And so let me see how far this storm door above the little thing we had, probably the same measurement. Yes, it was 3/4 inch. So the same idea, I want to take from the top of those little panels, we want to measure 3/4 inch. So here's a quarter, a half, 3/4, and I'm just going to make a line. So I know that's where I want the bottom of this to be placed at. And also, you just want to center it from left to right. You can measure, you can do that visually. See what we have here. 3/4 on that side. 3/4. So it's approximately, just for your information, it's approximately 3/4 on each side to center this measurement that I've been working with. You can certainly change your measurements to whatever you'd like. So I think because this is going to get a lot of flipping through, I am again going to just put some score tape on this part of the page. This page will not show back here. It is not going to flip. And you can tell that's why I have the score tape on that part of the hinge. I just want to make sure everything is secured down as best as it can be. I don't like my albums to fall apart after people have looked at them many times. It's best to over secure everything. Okay, I'm going to remove the tape backing. And seeing it's score tape, it will stick almost right away, so I need to be really careful that I don't have it crooked. So I'm going to hold this up so I can tell before I press it down that it's not crooked. Okay. Then I'll just press it down. Alright, now that this is on, I'm going to decorate the front of this little area, and I had an extra leaf. I've got actually two, so I will put the other one up on the next little area where I'm going to have some pages. I'm going to put these here, and so I'm going to pop this one here. I've got a dimensional on the bottom, and I'm going to put it over far enough. It won't matter if it's hanging over here, but it obviously will matter if it's hanging over here, because when you turn the page, it will hit. So make sure that you have nothing over the edge here. You can go down. So I've got that one there. And I think I'm going to add some rhinestones on the edge of this border right here. I like the dark color, but you could also use the light. Let's go with the dark on these. And I'll just use, let's see. These are all stuck together in one line, and I'm going to keep them that way. So I'll use 7. It's an odd number, like I said. That works the best for our eye to flow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to snip it here. And we'll put this on. Kind of centering it. I'm going to have to angle it toward me a little for a minute. And that's the bottom. I've added my two little, I guess you would call them little mini photo books here. And what I want to do is make a couple of little photo mats to go in here, which I could probably even journal on. They don't have to have photos. So all I did was picked out some cardstock, and I'm using Cajun Craze for mine, 2 3/4 by 3.5 inch pieces of cardstock from Stampin' Up. And I have the stamp from Stampendous that we used earlier to emboss our latches and things with. And I'm using the soft suede ink from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to ink this pattern up very well. I'm taking an old baby wipe that's actually dried out now, and I'm just going to take some of the ink off the edges. I don't want that stamp to stamp a perfect edge. I want it to look very irregular. I'm just going to stamp on here, just for a very light, subtle image. Do the same thing on this side. If it overlaps, that's fine. Alright, now I'm going to insert the two stamped photo mats or tags inside those little pockets that we made. And I want to place them so that they're flush with the edge with this outside edge. And then I want to just put these gold colored pearls right here as like a little accent. And also hold the pocket from not going too far in. I cut them a little bit shorter than they had to be because I didn't want them to go down far inside and get stuck to the score tape. You really should use the liquid glue here, but I wanted the security of the score tape, so that is why I cut them a little bit short. If you want to use liquid glue, cut them longer and they can go all the way down in, and you won't need these little, they're basically little stoppers that I'm going to use. Alright, so we've got that done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do some embellishing on part of these. I've got some mats that I'm going to cut. Also, I wanted to do some more of the inking around the edges with the summer starfruit before I start embellishing anything, just to get rid of that white edge. So I'm going to go around, ink everything. And just put a couple of photo mats right here on the front. I'm going to angle them. You can angle them the same or the opposite of each other. I think I'm going to keep them the same this time. I'll put them on like this. Now these photo mat measurements for the front pages, because we need to allow a little bit of room here for the frame edge. Those, let me measure for you, are 3 inches by 2.5. So if you're going to do the front mats like I am, you want to cut 2 pieces. I'm using Stampin' Up's Whisper White for this, and I'll adhere those down, and then we'll decorate the inside just a little bit. couple of the speech bubbles. They're the wood veneers from Studio Calico, and I'm going to put a couple on these little pages. What I've done is taken the sponge dauber that had that Cajun craze on it and just lightly touched the edges in a couple of places, not all the way around. They already have a really nice stained edge to them, so I don't want to take away from that too much. And adhere that one down, that little speech bubble down, and depending on what my pictures say, it'll be something having to do with our playing the games at the table. So it could be just the word fun I could stamp on there. You can handwrite on there, so I'm not quite sure what I'll be putting on there, but that's pretty much it. So that's the page. So a quick recap of what we already have, and then we're going to do the last page. So we've completed our album. The storm door, front and back, page 1, front and back with the photo mat, page 2, places to put photos, front and back, that has all of our mats inside, third page, front and back, and the page we just finished now. So the last video will be the last page, the back door.